Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Creative Redundancy back again here with another video. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about why I create and scavenge, and it's going to be a general talk about using resources on the planet. So let me roll up the intro here. Hey guys, CR's back again. And yeah, like I said just a few seconds ago, I'm going to be talking about why I create and scavenge, and like I said, a general talk about using resources on the planet. Now, there's kind of a saying, or that you talk about, well, basically, I forget how it goes, but basically, I'm the kind of person that, I rather learn how to fish than be given 1,000 fish. So basically, yeah, anyways, you guys are all aware how much I like to create. And well, CR is always in creation mode. Right? You don't get creativity or creative without CR. Just kidding. But yeah, I really do love to create. It feels like when I create, I feel like, I'm expanding my mind, learning, whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a fire kit, bug out bag, uh, one of those supplemental survival tins, that, like an Altoids tin, for example. Or maybe it's making something that can, help you in the real world. I mean, I've shown off a lot of different things that are just created from, you know, from very simple things. Like, for anyone that takes, that's gone through school and stuff like that, you might be aware from like taking like shop class or science types of classes, the six basic or six simple machines, which includes a wheel, usually with an axle, but it can be independent. Doesn't necessarily have to be a wheel and axle. A pulley, which basically changes the force of direction and kind of can make it easier, but you have to go longer distance with the line. A wedge, and basically a wedge can include something like a knife. So something like this is considered a wedge. Basically you wedge it through, but basically it's a cutting motion. And the screw, which and the inclined plane. Now, basically, a screw is basically an inclined plane that just goes around and around. those are a couple things I always keep in mind when I'm making stuff. Also, because that kind of stuff's been around forever. I mean, like, no one knows when the first wheel was created, but it's probably one of the first things that humans, well, made. Basically, it was, at that time, thousands and thousands of years ago, a big game changer. It allowed us to pretty much move us as people, uh, gear, and supplies like food or water around much easier. And basically, it's migrated up to from chariots, wagons from the past to what we have now in modern times. Cars, trucks, bicycles, trains, that's all kind of modern type of tech. But basically it still uses the simple machine of the wheel. I mean, wheels pretty much allow you to move something pretty heavy for a greater amount of distance with not a lot of effort. Of course, depending on how much it weighs and stuff like that. And a lot of this modern type of stuff is a combination of a lot of simple machines put together. And when a lot of simple machines are put together, it's known as a compound machine. So there's a lot of compound machines out there. I mean, a bicycle, has pulleys, wheels, and gears. And gears are also considered a simple machine. Basically, it's a wheel, but it has interlocking things. So when one moves, the other one moves, so you can kind of transfer power or change the force of the direction if it's perpendicular or something like that. So something like if you have a watch, you got gears in your watch, ranging from very small to a little bit bigger. And a lot of those kind of simple machines, we take for granted. I mean, there's, you look around you right now, there's probably like hundreds, if not thousands, of simple machines in our everyday life. We all use them. Everyone uses one at least once a day. And going back to the wheel, probably the earliest version of the wheel was probably like just logs. So, for example, the stick here. Basically, in Egyptian times, when they, had to make the pyramids and stuff like that, basically they would just put rollers, put their block on the top, and basically roll it. And when it reaches the end, they take the back one, and put it in front, and continue the cycle until they got to the location. And something like the wedge or inclined plane, I should say, was used so they can get it up and eventually make this big structure. So yeah, I've always been fascinated about creating ever since I was well ever since I was little and small. I used to create things just even from just paper, from like making little things with paper that do stuff to like origami and stuff like that. And something, if you ever had to make a paper cup, maybe you had to make one from like foil or whatever, an origami cup, easy to make, but useful if you need it. So, as I'm getting a little bit off topic with the whole simple machines thing and going a little bit overboard with the examples, we'll get back to why I create and scavenge in the first place. Basically, I feel kind of in the society that we have. I mean, like, we got a lot of modern stuff, but a lot of what I see is, you know, resources getting wasted out there in the world. Like, food's probably a big example. No, I'm not gonna give a specific names or anything like that, but everyone's quite aware that of food wasting, and unfortunately, it's just how it is, I guess, right? From like the grocery store where no one wants to buy a bruised apple or like a dented, pineapple or something that's fallen on the ground or whatever, right? But a lot of these places, unfortunately, you know, they can't sell that produce because, as a society, as a person, maybe not specifically you or me, we want to buy the best thing. We want our fruit to look kind of unbruised and stuff like that. I mean, in survival type of situations, if you found a bruised fruit, you wouldn't care. You'd be like, it's good enough, right? But in the real world, it's not good enough. So what happens? It gets tossed out. Now, some places do kind of gather it and kind of try to reuse it, which is good. I mean, there's certain places or certain chains of grocery stores that'll kind of donate that kind of used produce or produce that they can't sell, but it's starting to be past the ripeness, and they give it to like the food bank or something like that. And what happens is that they cook it up and make fresh meals out of it, so it's nice and hot, which is good. I totally support that. That's a great use of resources. So instead of that food getting wasted, it's getting put back into, well, the system again. And then there's, places that they'll sell their or give you the old produce, for example. I'll use that example again, where they give it away or sell it to a third party as maybe cattle feed or livestock feed, or maybe for composting. Now personally, I'm hoping to get back into the composting a little bit more. I'm hoping this spring that I'll actually, try to make something. Hey, I got a few people dropping in. Thanks for dropping by the way, all these people on the side chat right here. Let's see, hey Reaper, what's up, man? How's it going? Hopefully things are going well with you. I'm basically just talking about why I like to create and about, the resources we got on the planet. I mean, there's only so many resources we got on the planet. And sometimes, it just feels like some of us just waste resources, while other people, maybe in third world countries, they don't even have they don't have enough resources, or that their resource is not as big as like a first world nation or a country. So, for example, trees. Now, in third world countries, they use trees to burn to make fire, right? And everyone knows that fire cooks your food and all that stuff. But what starts to happen is because they've been using that resource so much, it's they're basically the land has changed and it's known as deforestation, which basically means the land is getting wiped out. Well, the trees are getting wiped out in the area. And in these third world countries, they gotta go, kilometers and miles away just to get some wood, just to make a fire, just to cook their food and stuff like that. Where something like solar ovens are becoming big in that area, is because they don't have to use that resource as long as the sun's out, of course, right? So, so yeah. Anyways, about the solar, that's why I'm big, supporter of solar. Solar uses up the resource you know that most of us can get access to, the sun, providing it's sunny out, where it be using it for, solar ignition, harnessing the solar thermal energy, like during the winter, for example, to keep your place warmer, or well, or the kind of 21st century using solar power you know, to convert that uh, energy into electricity to run fridges, stoves, all that stuff. Oh wow, that's great to hear, Reaper. Well, just to come back to the resources again. I mean, now that thing you just got from the side of the road, if you didn't grab it, it would just went to the dump. The resource would have been wasted. But now, the resource is working for you, which means it has, well, a second life, so to speak. Which also means, you don't have to buy or have to make it because, you found it or you scavenged it. I mean, you know, there's a few. I know there's one thing I've seen online, and I think I've seen it on Kickstarter or something like that. It's basically instead of using solar power, like solar cells and all that stuff to make the electricity, it uses like water power to create the electricity. So basically, you toss it into the stream, a river, and while the water's moving by, it spins a propeller, which generates electricity. Now, unfortunately, I wish I had something like that. Something like that would be awesome in some parts of the world where there's, flowing water, like by a river or a stream. I mean, you could toss that in, it'll work, continuously. It's not as intermediate as like solar or even wind. I mean, as much as I like solar or even wind energy, sometimes it's not windy out, and sometimes it's very cloudy or it's nighttime. But water is one of those things, as long as it's raining enough upstream, you don't have that continuous flow, well, of water, which, you can uh, create electricity from. So, hydropower, I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah, it would definitely be cool to have one of those. I wouldn't mind having one of those, that's for sure. But I don't have the budget. So coming back to the scavenging part, I mean, a lot of unfortunately a lot of people toss things that are still useful. You know, let's for example, gaming consoles or a smartphone or electronics like a computer or like a desktop computer or a laptop. I mean, a lot of these things can still be useful, but because it's too slow, I can't run the latest game on it, or maybe it's something else like you broke the screen, for example, on your smartphone, and you can't use it for its intended purpose. Well, a lot of this stuff can still have life. You just kind of have to you know think outside the box a little. I mean, I'll give an example where there's one time when I was walking home from a friend's place. It's like midnight. I had some garbage just in my pocket from like a wrapper, like from a candy bar or whatever. I went to go, you know, put it in the dumpster because I was like, I'm passing by. I don't want to litter and stuff like that. I went to go throw it in a bin one time, and I saw there's something shiny in the bin. I'm like, oh, what's this? I'm like, what's this? And then I go like pull it out. I'm like, it's a laptop. Yeah, I found a laptop in the dumpster before when I was trying to throw out garbage. Now, granted, it didn't come with a battery and the shift key doesn't work, but you know, I can get a battery. I can get a universal adapter that can work with it. And just because the operating system didn't work so great, well, I can put something else on it. I can put an open source operating system like Ubuntu on, which is basically Linux. I mean, a lot of this kind of electronics are wasted so often. I mean, there was this one time where I found like an Xbox hard drive, which currently is actually in my computer that I'm using right now. I've actually used it for a while. I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, I see people throwing that out. I'm like, a lot of this kind of electronics still has secondary uses. You just kind of have to think about it for a second. And if you have that knowledge or how you can still use it, when you go find, if you find it, be like, hey, score, right? I can use it, as maybe something to do live streams on, or maybe keep documents on, or whatever. I mean, there's so much of that tech that just gets kind of wasted. Well, like electronics, most of the time. Like, even like something as simple as like a remote control. Remote control get tossed all the time. But even a remote, there's still some parts that you can still use from it. I mean, I'm all for those people or channels that do that scrap metals like aluminum, brass, copper, right? Even especially brass and copper have a high value for their weight. I mean, whatever it is. Like, you just go check for your local area, go to the local scrapyard. You give like a ton of copper, or you put in a ton of copper, you get some money out of it, which could be used for, buying more food or whatever. And basically, these guys just, they grab it from like electronics, copper from like cables and stuff like that, and they strip it, gather it together, and bring it, a ton in, and they get all this money. So if you have time and a little bit of knowledge, you can work this stuff. give me 1 sec here. Just checking up on something here real quick here. So yeah, there's so many resources out there that I've seen just get wasted. Another thing is, um, like cans, beer bottles, stuff like that. I see a lot of that stuff, you know, getting just tossed to the side. When, you know, that stuff can be in some places in the world, not all places, not every country, not every state or province. It varies, but you can get a refund for it. You see, heck, I know in my area, cans, bottles, 2 liters, beer bottles, uh, you know, that all has a deposit on it. You actually have to pay for it when you originally purchase like a can of pop, for example, right? You have to actually, for here, you gotta pay an extra dime for the deposit. It's like you actually have to pay that. You'll see it on the receipt. 1 dime. And you know, I see a lot of that stuff just getting tossed to the side of the road and stuff like that. And that's why in scavenging videos you'll see me pick up that stuff. It's because it might be a small amount of like money that I can redeem, but over time that could add up to like, you know, 50, $100. You know, especially if I gather more of it, which that kind of money can be put forth in acquiring something like food, maybe that next game, knife, something like that. So you guys ever wonder why I pick up all that deposit? Well, that's the reason why. I know I know a few other channels out there that do that. You know, it's kind of supplements your budget a little. You know, it's extra that you can not rely on, but you know, maybe get you that extra knife. You know, maybe fill up your gas tank every month or so or whatever, which could be useful. I mean, you know, everyone's always trying to stretch that dollar or pound or whatever your currency is a little bit more. So now another reason why I like to like create so much is sometimes like I'll use the fire starter as an example. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of awesome fire starters out there commercially made that you can buy, right? But if I can make something or create something that's maybe cheaper, just as good, works just as well, I mean, why would I want to buy something if I can make something just as good? Or maybe sometimes even better, or in larger quantity. So again, I'll go back to the fire starter. The most common DIY fire starter is, you know, the petroleum jelly cotton ball, the Vaseline cotton balls. Everyone knows about it. It's very simple to make. It's quite cost effective. But it's also very easy to make too, right? Versus going out to go buy XYZ fire starter that maybe costs like $1 per fire starter, for example, where something like a Vaseline cotton ball might cost you 10 cents or whatever per one. So, like, if you're creating it, you can have, for the same amount of money, I'd say you can spend $8 on XYZ fire starter and you get 8 in a package. For that same amount of money, you could be making, you know, a lot of petroleum jelly so cotton balls, for example. So, you might be able to, instead of spending $8 for a whole bunch of fire starters, you're only spending maybe $2 or $3, and you're doing it in bulk. So you're saving money. And stuff like that. So another thing that I like to create a lot of is these tins that people have seen, survival tins and stuff like that. There again, there's more. You can buy commercially bought ones that doesn't specify any names or any specific company, but sometimes that kind of stuff, you know, maybe overpriced, or the quality of the items is not good enough, or the gear or the items you get within it is not, kind of, lack of a better word, cheap. Where if you made something or created it yourself, it might be better. So, for example, again, your Altoids tin that you create might be better than this $20 tin that you can buy. Now, it's not always the case, but a lot of the time when I see a lot of these commercially bought tins that you can buy, I'm like, it just feels like it's not worth it, or I can make it with very similar items, might not include this awesome fire starter, but I got the Con Petroleum fire starter. It might not be the greatest knife, but it's a full unlocking blade knife. That'll be good enough for a tin like that. And remember, when you're buying a lot of single-use, individually packaged items, remember there's a lot of packaging that goes involved into that stuff too, which adds more waste into the environment. So, for example, I'll use, unfortunately, like during Halloween and stuff like that, we we buy individually wrapped candy bars and candy and stuff like that. Where if you bought it other times of the year, you're buying like big one or whatever and just dividing it up. But that's how it is right now for us, especially during like Halloween and stuff like that. And that packaging, some of it, yeah, the cardboard, some of the plastics can be recycled, but other times some of these wrappers, they don't get a secondary use. I mean, I've shown off in a video where you can reuse some wrappers with like an iron and stuff like that and seal it and make something waterproof. I mean, that's a good way of reusing some of the packaging for like, let's say you have a wrapper or whatever, and you can fit a tin inside. Well, you could seal it, and just like that, now you got something that's waterproof without buying anything, and you're reusing something, so that resource doesn't get wasted, and you're converting it from a useless state to useful state, which in my books is better than buying, for the most part, buying something new and that other resource is wasted and you spend money to buy something to do the exact same thing, if that all makes sense. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there in the world. You just kind of have to find them. I mean, it's all cool if you got the money to buy everything in the world, but not everyone's like that. Unfortunately, we got bills to pay, a budget to keep up, family members to, feed, clothe, and have water and food on the table and stuff like that. So not everyone can just, what's it called? Put their wallet into to solve the problem. Sometimes we gotta stretch that dollar a little bit more. Use the resource or what we have a little bit better. So I'm probably ranting a little bit more here than usual. I just kind of want to give a couple examples here and there on why I like to create and scavenge. Basically, for me, I see it as a way of creating a better future for the planet by using the resources that we currently have better. Because a lot of the time, like I said, a lot of resources get wasted. I see things, that are suitable for that are still usable, getting tossed out just because, it's obsolete. Maybe it's not as fast, like in terms of like a computer or a smartphone, or it's not the latest and greatest. Or maybe it's not perfect in its condition. So you can't there's no, unfortunately, there's no resale value. So yeah, why does CR create? It's to make a better future. That's why. Like in a nutshell, that's why I create in the first place. It's to make a better future, where it's to use a resource that would usually get thrown away for another reason to help me out, or help someone else out, or I create to put a system together that can help me in the future or help someone else in the future. So, anyways, I will probably end this live stream here in the next few minutes here. Looking at, I guess, well, maybe I won't end this live stream anytime soon. I guess Peeping Egg wants to drop in. Hello, peeping egg, and welcome. You kind of missed my last live stream, but you can go check it out. You might feel a little bit cold from the last live stream, but that's what I was talking about. Oh, thanks, peeping egg. I greatly appreciate that. Thanks for the support. No, I was just talking about why I create using resources better. I just find sometimes in society, especially maybe in these first world nations and stuff like that, we we tend to you know dispose of things or buy disposable items too much, or when we do buy something like a computer or whatever, you know oh, it's too slow, I can't run this game on it, or it's there's not enough RAM, or it's not fast enough. We gotta buy the next greatest thing the next year, and then the previous version gets tossed. I mean, some people they give it to the thrift store, like clothes for example is a prime example, where you know a lot of people try to give it to a thrift store or Goodwill. I mean, I'm all for that because the resource gets used again, and someone's saving a little bit of money, whoever's buying it at that place or whatever. Just reading the stuff on the side real quick. Oh yeah, I know, peeping. The amount of stuff that grocery store throws out. I mean, usually it's either the meat or the produce. It's usually, I mean, stuff like cereal. They're not really throwing that out because it has a longer shelf life. But produce, meats, especially the produce. I mean, because once it ripes, you know, no one's no one wants to buy like a brown banana. Everyone wants to buy a nice pre-ripe banana, and they bring it home. It's not ripe enough over time. As I just read what's saying here. Oh, I know. Like, look how. If you ever saw one of those, I know you saw it, but generally speaking, if you see one of those, you see how much is in there. I mean, I just kind of wish at times these stores, corporations, and stuff like that would try to, you know, get their waste, you know, product or whatever back into the system to be reused in some way, where it be like donating it to like a shelter where they recook it, and they process up the potatoes and the apples and they cook it up and make meals out of it to feed the hungry, and so, or maybe it's sold to a local farmer to make livestock feed, like something like corn for example. Well, now I don't condone or say to dumpster dive. There's inherent risks, but you do dumpster diving at your own risk. Know what you're doing. Remember, you don't know what's inside, and sometimes you're not sure of the condition of the food. But you know, as long as you accept the risk, sometimes you can find good stuff randomly. it is possible. I know for me, I went into a dumpster before, like just to throw out a wrapper, and I found a laptop. I mean, of course that was a fluke. Probably a 1% kind of fine, but it happens. Oh yeah, exactly. Peeping at. I mean, like this planet that we live on, it only can support so much, and it only has so many resources. Well, in a given, especially like something like food in a given year. If we're waste, the more we use it, kind of better, I'd say. The better off we're gonna be in the long run. I'm talking about long run, like hundreds and hopefully thousands of years. Oh wow, that's crazy. That's crazy peeping, eh? Not even expired too. I mean, I can understand throwing something out because it expired or something like that. But usually nowadays, it's best before. Sometimes this food can still be good even after the best before, but usually, as far as I know it as, the best before is just so, you know, just to cover their butts, I guess, for lack of a better term. Well, thanks, peeping egg. I greatly appreciate the feedback and kind of, your point of view, what you've seen. Yeah, that might help out with your chickens a little bit more. I mean, hey, who knows? You could be finding like corn, I guess, hey, or something like that that could help you out. Well, yeah, usually most stores nowadays they don't have a extensive kind of you know in the back kind of space. They're in the back kind of space is kind of smaller, so they get more frequent type of deliveries. Hence, if deliveries ever stop, shelves get don't get resupplied, and they become bare. It happens a lot of the time you know in during a hurricane, for example. You'll see that we're days before the hurricane, the shelves get emptied, and because they don't get resupplied, you don't see anything back on the shelf for a period of time. Even after the hurricane's gone through, it still takes time for trucks to and vehicles to get to the store. Yeah, no, I know. Use your own best judgment in terms of dumpster diving. Know what you're getting into. If it's still sealed, stuff like that. I randomly found a bag of chips, but I took a look. There's no hole, no mug, no hole. I still have that pocket of air inside of it. I'm like, yeah, this is still good. Most likely it was just someone who was going to the store. They dropped the bag of chips and rushing home or whatever. So instead of resource getting wasted, I decided to have it. For example. Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta especially with meat. Meats are one of those things where you don't want to. You gotta look for stuff. I mean, the fresher it is, obviously it's gonna be better. But you know, no, clearly no one's gonna take contaminated meats or something that has a bunch of bugs, magnets, and stuff like that. Clearly, no one's gonna take that. You might use it for other reasons, but not for feeding yourself. Oh yeah, I mean, how long was that power outage for peeping egg? I mean, you know, I know a lighter, for example, is more disposable, but fire is important to a certain degree for survival. I mean, it's not obviously a lighter's not end all be all. There's your ferro rods for sparks, solar if you got access to it, or you got skill to do friction fire, or you want like some sort of chemical fire starter or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be made to use with fire, let's just say. I mean, even a resource like dryland, I mean, lots of people just throw that out. I mean, it's good that you remove dryer lint from your dryer because it's a fire hazard, but don't just toss that. You can use it as a fire starter. And later on, I'll be showing how you can make a hot candle from a fire from dryer lint, especially if you have enough of it. I mean, you probably could go to like a laundromat and like fish out a whole bunch of dryer lint for a whole year and come up with this big ball of dryer lint at the end of it where you have a baggie full, a gallon size full of dryer lint that that could come in handy, especially for starting a fire. It's a grid down, your barbecue, campfire, etc., etc. There's places that have gone without power for like way longer than that. Now I haven't experienced any power outage that was longer than, I think it was 8 hours. But the thing is, I've seen this area where power can go out randomly. You know, I might have friends over or whatever. I mean, where this happened this one time when I had friends over and we're all you know rushing trying to get some light. We're rushing to get our cell phones out or whatever, and getting some light on the situation. So we can go find the real flashlights and stuff like that. Oh yeah, peeping egg. I collect Darwin too. It's a good way to kind of reuse that resource that usually would get thrown out. Well, that's funny. Peeping egg. I think one of these days I should have peeping egg come onto the panel with me, chat it up. One of these days, right? Oh wow. Well, 17 days is, can feel like eternity at times. I mean, depending what's going on at times, it just feels like forever. especially like grid down, power outage, something like that. I've never experienced that, but you know, I can just imagine. No, it's cool. It's cool peeping in. It's cool. I appreciate it. And to be honest, I'd rather be reading comments than blabbing on and on randomly. Yeah, 8 hour live stream, hey. At this rate, I'll be on. At this rate, I would be up till like sunset. Clearly, I don't sleep enough, I guess. But a lot of my best ideas sometimes just comes at night. I don't know why. Well, I'll probably be ending this live stream pretty soon, anyways. Yeah, I must be getting old. Must be getting old. Must be, hey. So, I guess in this video or live stream, I'm gonna be doing a special shout out to the Peeping Egg, who I will leave a link in the description down below on her channel, and you guys can go check out the Peeping Egg. And of course, because she's in the chat right now talking to me, and you know, can kind of relate to what I'm saying about the resources and trying to create a better future by, you know, using our current resources better or extending the resource such as food better, which, I mean, food. Here we are in first world nations wasting food while third world nations are like starving or have a lack of food or even a lack of firewood, for example. No problem, peeping egg. No problem. No problem. Anytime, anytime. You're always welcome. Always welcome. Actually, you will always be welcome, regardless. So I guess I'll end this live stream here again. So maybe I'll put a thumbs up if you enjoyed this kind of video where I talk about creating, why I like kind of create, things I keep in mind while I'm creating, like 6 simple machines, which have been used for over the course of human history for a long time. From a simple wheel to a car, for example. From pulley to a train to a plane. So, as the world changes so much oneself to reach a new level of skill and knowledge, one must practice. Now, a single person can't help everyone in this world. But one person, like you, me, and the peeping egg, can help someone in this world. Alright guys, until the next video for me, it's peace out from the guy that's always in creation mode, clearly. Yeah. See ya, and catch you next time on the next live stream and the next video from CR. Later everyone. Peace out from CR.